All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm Jay, your host. How's it going? And as you can see here, we're making espresso this morning. This is a nice little double shot that's kind of in line for our topic for today. As you can see here, let's look at this shot for a moment here. It's a little bit, it's a tighter shot, right? But you can see that a little bit of the blonding that's happening there. Mom, good morning to you. But nice and dark crema. Like I really like this kind of crema. But here's the thing: the volume is right about here, right? Now, when it comes to espresso, I'm not terribly worried about volume as much as I am about the richness and the quality of the espresso. And the reason we're talking about this today is because I was actually hanging out with a friend of mine yesterday, Andrew, who actually comes here on the show. And he sent me a message a couple of days ago after we had done the Decopon espresso drink. And he was like, he sent me pictures like, this is my results. And where in my example, the espresso floated on top of the orange juice, his dove inside. Actually, let me pull up here. I'll show you what happened, or the image that he sent me. Naomi, how are you doing? Good to see you. Where is the message? There it is. We were actually hanging out yesterday at the cigar shop, and he reminded me about it. And so this is what he sent me. So this is his results using his home espresso machine. Now, Andrew has a Philips super automatic machine, so it's going to be a little bit different. So he's asking me like, oh, I don't. He sent me this to show me that it had fallen to the bottom, where mine had floated to the top. Now, my first reaction was like, oh, maybe it's the pulpy matter in my shot that helped it to float. And he was like, well, this is also freshly squeezed. So he showed me a picture yesterday of just the juice itself, and it did have that pulpy matter. And so he's thinking, maybe there's a problem with the machine. Maybe the machine's not as good. And how do I make better espresso for this? Or how do I get better results? And I was like, well, let me. And so we were talking about it, and then he showed me an example of the type of shot that he's getting from his machine. And here's the machine. So very blonde. This is about a 2.5 to 3 ounce cup. So typical demi-tasse cup size, but just kind of in that French shape. But as you can see here, the crema itself, the thickness is relatively thin. It's also very blonde, and it's mostly the liquid. Where if you compare it to this one, there's quite a stark difference, right? And so how do you get something more like this as opposed to something like this? But one of the things I said to him was like, when we're talking about yesterday, I was like, how does it taste? I mean, do you enjoy the flavor? And he's like, yeah, I enjoy the flavor. And I was like, okay. And so at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're making coffee for mostly ourselves, but we're making coffee to a standard that we want to have for ourselves, meaning that, if you're enjoying the coffee that you're making, there's nothing technically wrong with it. I mean, sure, there may be comparison differences, like the difference between these two is quite stark, right? There's a big difference. Kent, how are you doing? But does this mean that this is necessarily better than this? If you enjoy this, I don't think so, right? I think that this can be very, very, as long as this is very enjoyable, does it really matter if you're a machine or if you're not getting that kind of result? So that's kind of what we're going to explore today. And what happened is that we were hanging out there, like, let's have dinner. So I went over to his house for dinner, and then we got to playing around with the machine, because I was thinking to myself, so in my he's like, how do I improve this to get to more like this? And for me, when it comes to espresso production or extraction, this is achieved by resistance of the coffee to the water, right? The greater your resistance, the deeper your extraction. Now, there is a point where you'll have too much resistance and it will cause the machine to seize and freeze your shot. And then that's too far, right? So we're always trying to, let me see, pull this out here. So here's what we're doing, right? We've got our puck here. I'm going to take it out of the portafilter. So we've got our basket, right? So The basket, oh, it's still hot. When we put the coffee in the basket, of course, the basket has the screen here at the bottom, right? These are perforations, and that holds it together. What we want is to create an even resistance matrix of the coffee to the water. And that's what gives us our extraction. Our ability to get this correct and flat is the whole game. Now, if you're making espresso like I am here in a manual setting, there's a lot of technique involved. But if you're making espresso with a super automatic machine, well, then all you can do is just tell the machine, try to get the machine to do what you want it to do. Now, if we look very closely at this puck, you can see there's that little dent right there on the edge, right? Now, in this particular example, that's not an issue because we saw the results, but something like that could be an issue, right? There could have been uneven distribution that could have been in that spot. We can tell that could have been there because it's lower, but it of course, since we're not seeing an actual burrow, although it looks like it could have burrowed a little bit, then it means that there was no under extraction. So what happens with these kind of things, right? If you have these burrows, if you have uneven distribution, the water under pressure is looking for the path of least resistance. It will exploit any weakness in your defenses. And this is kind of like the defenses, right? This is your defensive shield against the water, and you're trying to keep an even defense against the water so that it has to extract in the way that you want it to extract and not just dive through this little hole. Right. But since there was no hole, and we would have seen that had there actually been a hole, we would have seen that result in the shot itself. But we're checking here to see how does it look. But as you can see here, it's also a good compaction, really good, tight, dry. And even if you have a super automatic machine, you can go look at your pucks. And ideally, your pucks should be like this, right? Like I'm flinging it relatively hard with a bit of force. Like, look at that, I'm dropping it. Oh, okay, there it cracks. But I dropped it that first time. It's okay. So the better the tighter your puck is, the better the quality of your shot, and that's kind of why we're always checking this. We're also looking to see how tight is it, right? And then here we can see that there is. You can also look at the cross section. You're just kind of looking for even color tone, so that it because all of it was wet, so you want it to be even. And so sometimes if there is channeling going on, you will see some of these areas will not be evenly saturated. So Naomi says, "How are you, Naomi? I always try to err on the side of over extraction because I'm a latte drinker. Under extracted and sour espresso. Oh yeah, definitely not. It does not go nicely. So, but here's the thing: it's like in Andrew's case, he has this super auto, and super autos, are great tools to make coffee at home for most people because it makes it so simple. All you have to do is walk up to the machine, you hit the button, and it does everything for you. You don't need to muss, you don't need to fuss. Like I have people that I know, friends, they'll be like, I was thinking about getting one of your type of machines, these beautiful, sexy machines, right? The problem with sexy and beautiful is that it takes maintenance. It takes you have to learn how to finesse it. You have to learn technique. You have to build up your skills, right? It's more than just hitting a button and letting it work. You then have to you have to hit a button, but everything you do before you hit that button must be correct in order for you to get something similar to this, right? And honestly, if you're not going to do something, if you're not going to try to get something really nice, why expend the money on that, right? But money and time is always at a premium. But the super autos just make it so much more easy. So when I look at this photo, Naomi says, I've never even touched a super automatic. I mean, super automatics are great because all you do is you quite literally press the button and it does. Actually, let me show you. Since we're at Andrew's house yesterday, I recorded some video because after our dinner, I was like, okay, let's see this espresso machine in operation. Okay, let's see here.
Least amount of liquid.
I see. So that's the front of the machine.
What does that say? Okay. Oh, clean and.
So it has auto clean. It's got steam features. You can adjust the amount of coffee and.
Try it again. Yeah, try one more time.
So we're trying to adjust the grind here. Okay, let me go back here because so as you can see here, let's look at so in this particular machine, this is the Philips. You can see that the bean that has the 3 lights, that's the quantity of beans that it's going to put into its quote unquote portafilter. The icon next to it that has the cup, that has the 1, that gives you an indication of how much water it's going to put through that puck. So the quantity of coffee, whether it's making espresso or coffee, is the same. It's the amount of water that it pushes through. So it'd be kind of like going for a lungo espresso shot if you select the more longer ones, and it gets, progressively diluted from that point. But what you really can't control, so like I told him, we need to push, you want to push as much coffee as you can into the machine. Like you want to go to full extremity of the machine's capacity. But now what we're trying to do is when I see a shot like this, okay, let me go back to that photo. Or here, we'll just go to the one that we pulled this shot last night. When I see a shot like this, right, that to me, okay, so we changed the grind setting here. So from the very first shot, do I have a first shot? Okay, the other one. So from this shot, this is so something like this is very blonde, right? This is, we were able to adjust the grind just slightly and then pull this. So there's a slight variation in the color, right? So the original shot we pulled, which I don't think I took a photo of. Did I take a photo of that one? Oh no, here we are. Here's our original shot. So you can see it in operation here.
So I've got it on a grind. It's still doing it. It's actually.
Okay, here comes a shot.
That was 6 seconds.
So quite fast, right? But look. You can see already how blonde that crema is. Okay, so remember that color, right?
Is Disco coffee.
Disco coffee. Oh, this is one from Carolina.
All right, so that's Disco's coffee. And then this is the second shot from it that after we adjust the grind, we got a little bit more color out of it, right? So you can see there's a little bit more of an improvement. However, that's not quite the color of this crema, right? Which is kind of like what I think Andrew would like to have, or at least try to experience, right? Because if you're only getting results like this and you haven't got results like this, how do you know whether you and you like this, but how do you know you'd like this? It's hard to know that. So you want to try to get it. Now, Naomi's asking, how does it dial in? And so in that machine, when you pull off the hopper lid, you can see the beans, and there is a knob inside there that adjusts the grind setting. Now, I don't understand if this is the way it's designed or what, but when you push it, so you can't just rotate it. Like I wish it would just be rotatable, but you have to push it down. Like you're doing with like a medicine bottle. You have to push it down and then it can rotate. However, if the machine is not running, meaning specifically the grinder is not running, it doesn't do anything. Like I cannot press it down and coarsen it or fine it, right? I get that you couldn't fine it so easily because we always presume that there's going to be coffee between the burrs. So that's going to, prevent you from like easily compacting those burrs to get a tighter grind. But going the other direction should be a lot easier, but it's not. You can't move it at all. It's very, very, actually, it's very, very irritating because the only way that you can move it is that you have to hit the brew button and then the grinder has to start grinding and then you're able to push it in and turn the knob. Now, for that second shot, I was able to push it in and I just turned it just, I don't know if it was clicking or not, but maybe it was a click. I just turned it just a little bit to see what it would do. And it did improve the color and it did give a little bit more flavor to it. So the idea is that you want to create resistance to that water so that the more resistance that's given, the water has to work harder to get the extraction. When you see this kind of shot like this, and you saw how that shot came out at like 6 seconds, it's very fast. There's very little resistance to the water flow to get extraction. The more resistance you give, the more you get, right? The more you get out of it. So it's kind of like, when we talk about coffee brewing in general, we talk typically about having ground coffee and exposure time to the water, which is typically, let's say, 4 minutes, right? Whether we're doing pour-over brewing, whether we're doing immersion brewing, French press, most of those methods, we're talking about 4 minutes of time so that the water has enough time to extract the flavors out of the coffee. Same thing here, right? However, we're doing it in 30 seconds. But the thing is that by having very, very, very fine ground coffee under pressure, it's going to pull all of that out if there's enough resistance. But if there's not enough resistance, it's just going to force its way through and you're going to get coffee that could be a lot more, right? That's probably the best way to put it. So Naomi says, I thought super automatics changed the grind size for you. Like a total hands off. I think now that you mention, I think I might have heard of some machines doing that, but you would now have to get into like astronomical level pricing a type of machines if that feature is available. That's going to be something that's very expensive. With most super automatics that are on the market today, you still have to adjust it, right? Most people don't understand that, right? So a lot of times, I think the majority of people that are buying these machines are getting suboptimal coffee results because they don't know that the machine can be adjusted, or even perhaps, and the worst case scenario for this particular machine would be like, what if we get it to the point where for whatever reason, and I don't know the design of that grinder, it just will not get any finer, right? Like in something like this La Marzocco, something like this Mauser Major, the threads will allow you to compact the burrs all the way until they contact, and you could seize the whole grinder just by tightening it all the way down. And that's kind of how we calibrate these machines when we install new burrs, is we'll wind it all the way down until the blades, the cutters impact and lock. We test that by turning the machine on, and the motor ceases because it can't move, and then we turn it off, rotate it back a little bit, and you're just listening to hear just a light touch, just each of the blades kissing each other, and then you pull a little bit more, and then you're good to go. Or at least you're good to go to begin to dial it in, right? You want to bring those burrs all the way down to the point that they're pretty much kissing. However, on something like these home machines, these super automatics, I don't know what kind of tolerances they build into them. So like you would have to really, one of the probably things that would be ideal if you're thinking about buying these type of grinders or these type of espresso machines, if they have a demo unit, like let's say you buy it at Williams-Sonoma, they got demo units, see if you can go in there, look at this adjuster and crank it all the way down. And they probably won't allow you to do that. Not on the demo machines, but the ones that are sitting on the floor, you might be able to at least see how the mechanism works so that you can determine, like, okay, can I get to that? Can I get to that level of fineness? Now, I'm going to presume that this Phillips can get to that level of fineness, or maybe not to the point where the burrs impact, but it should be. I would hope that it would allow you to grind finer and finer and finer. It's just that as you press the button, as it does its thing, it turns on the grinder, and that's the window that you can adjust it. Now you've only got this little tiny window that you're burning coffee on, maybe the idea is, he already had beans loaded into it. So maybe the idea is that you take the beans out and then you run it without the beans in the grinder and then you adjust it. That way you're not burning coffee. But the fact that you only have this, if you can only operate that adjuster when the grinder is running, that's a problem. Like that's it's an irritant kind of issue, right? It just is like, why would you make it that way? So yeah, that's one thing that, if you want. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so here's the thing. So the thought is, okay, let me go back. When I look at, again, let's go back to this original shot. When I look at shots like this, oops. When people ask about shots like this, how do I get more to this? It's always a matter of getting more coffee, right, from your coffee, meaning that there's a couple ways to do this. You could add more coffee to create greater resistance, or you could go finer and create greater resistance. It's always about creating greater resistance to get a result more akin to this one than that one. Now, in the case of super, so if in the case of super automatics, you can only, the machine will only allow you to program X amount maximum of coffee. Like you saw on the Philips, it had those three dots. The machine physically won't allow you to do that. Now, when it comes to doing hand making espresso, we can try to jam in 30 grams if we want to into this basket, right? We can do all kinds of things to, try to compact more. Right? But you can't really do that with super automatic. So the other remedy is to go finer with the grind, right? So you want to get very finely ground coffee to create that resistance, right? And then you get this rich, thick, syrupy, like this comparatively, you can already see the viscosity difference, right? Like this is the coffee that over here is a bit thin. This has more viscosity. It's also got intensity and depth. And I asked Andrew, I said, hey, what when you drink the coffee, does it give you a lingering finish? And he's like, oh yeah, a little bit. And I was like the idea with espresso such as this, right? When you have this really rich, fine espresso, and the old idea is that you go to the espresso bar and you come in and you're like, ¿cómo está? And whatever you ask for, un café, right? So you eat it, you drink it, and then you go. This espresso is so thick on the palate, it just lingers. Like now, right now it's still lingering. Ideally, you're going to walk to your work or take your job or whatever you're doing for the next half hour, and it's going to be with you. That flavor is going to be there, just sitting on your palate, just accompanying you, reminding you that life is good, you are alive, and you just had a worthy espresso. Like this is what you want. Like this is like nice and rich and deep, and oh my gosh. Nobody wants to know, is he drinking it as an espresso or with no milk? I believe so. I told him I was going to do this morning. I'm surprised he's actually not here. Oh, yeah, that's what you want. This is what you want. And then when you look at the bottom, like here's something else to look at. Now we look at the bottom of the cup, right? And you can already imagine when you finish the cup in here, what the cup is going to look like. It's going to be relatively clean. It's going to be thin. The coffee that's left in. But look at this. This little teeny tiny bit it's still thick. It's still syrupy. It's all dark and just brooding. And there's some crema that's stuck here. Look at that black or brown, dark brown, caramelized crema. Just, God, look at that. And then compare it to this, right? Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to disparage Andrew's work. I mean, this is how the question really today is, how do we work from something like this to getting from something more akin to this? And I always believe, I want to believe that whatever machine you have that you've decided to buy, can have the capability, or okay, maybe it doesn't. I want to believe that the machines that you will be able to buy for your home can have the capabilities that machines such as this can provide. But maybe there's going to be limitations, right? Where's the difference between something like this? I mean, other than the fact that it's manual and this is super, but let's just say, components of the machine are going to be different, right? These are all metal construction, hand assembled at least, and whereas the super autos of the world, lots of plastic tubing, and they're trying to do things in a way that's going to be a little bit cheaper for production, right? More if for mass market efficiencies. They're not going to have large burst sets. Like if you ever saw this Cuisinart burr grinder, if I had thought about this example, I would have tried to find mine. But I bought one at Costco many years, like 20 years ago, for $35. Burr grinder, $30. Wow, that's crazy. Let me buy that. So I bought it, and it's truly a burr grinder. But the burr set is like this big. And the burrs are really not even like cut burrs. They're more like, suggestions of cutting. They're more like they're more like knuckles that rub, that rub the coffee and break it up, right? So it's not a slicing, it's more of a breaking. It's still a burr grinder, right? Still flat burrs, still adjustable, very coarse adjustments, but it's a lot cheaper. And that's where, you may have, it may be a situation where these super autos have those kind of features in them that are just not quite to the, like, we're talking with, I don't even know how much these new Mazdas are, but we're talking, if you were to buy this, these are fairly expensive pieces of equipment for commercial production. So, but I would like to believe that, if you were able to get a machine, and I think that, if you're thinking about buying a machine, the critical factors, I think, are temperature of the water. Can the machine deliver water to a specified temperature? So, and like in this machine here, this La Valentina E61, right? It's not like a high-tech machine. This is like super old school. Remember we took apart the machine the other week, and I showed you the components. It's a mechanical thermostat controller. It's not digital. There's nothing digital about this, right? And what we're trying to do is operate within a range of temperature. We want somewhere around 200 degrees. If you could be at 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, that's fine. That's good enough. Like, especially for a home machine, you're golden, right? And then what's the other important thing? We want to be able to have the right amount of water pressure, right? Can your machine deliver water at 8 to 9 bars or 135 psi of pressure? If you can get those two factors in a machine, you should be well situated. The other factor then will be how much coffee can the machine hold? Right now, I think a lot of these machines that are designed for the home, like the Philips, they're not going to have, I don't believe they have like 14-gram double baskets, right? This is a 21-gram triple basket. So there's going to be some amount of compromise, right? So that could be another factor that I hadn't thought about yesterday that could be affecting Andrew's results, is that the basket quantity is going to be less. And maybe one of the things to do in that is you can, in the video or in a video, we were able to kind of look at the puck. Of course, it's nighttime in the kitchen and it's not very, very clear. Let me see if I can find it. Of course not. Oh, here's another shot. So we're adjusting the grind here. So you can see the knob. There's the knob. Trying to get this knob to turn. Let's see, what are we talking about here?
Was it turn when it grinds?
I think so.
It doesn't
I've
turn
seen that on a number of different That's a lot of liquid.
Oh, that's right. That's what we had the machine set to do. This is what I remember. It said that the machine can deliver more water depending on that setting. It was set. I was actually at the higher setting, so that was
Max
probably
quantity
not a
setting,
good.
So that's max.
That's
Yeah,
max
see, there's the
coffee
max
and
quantity.
least amount of liquid.
So we had set it back to that setting.
What'd that say? Okay. Oh, clean and.
That's for
That's
down to the filter.
So
That's cool.
Try it again.
yeah, try one.
You want to turn it so that it's going.
Should we go that way?
Yes.
All right, now we're trying to adjust the grind here. There goes a glass onto the floor. It's really difficult to adjust. Like it's not easy.
It's so difficult.
Okay, now, and like I said, there was only that window you can adjust it is when the grinder's running. So now we're going to pull a shot, and the shot's going to be somewhere between our original setting and the setting we're trying to make it. So it's going to be compromised.
All right, let's try one more time.
And it's not even much crema on this one. And the flavor is okay, but it's not.
All right, let's do one more. Because we want to make sure after that. No, I was able to adjust it, but it was being done during the. That's still bit.
It's doing a lot of coffee.
So here's another shot.
And we've lost a nice thicker crema.
Actually, it looks a little bit more. There is a little more definition to it. Like, have a look at this. See if you look here, compared to the previous ones, there's actually a little bit more brown.
Yeah.
It's a little bit shaded or darker. So. Better?
Yeah. Better than that.
It's a little bit more. I think that if you can get it to grind, if you get to finer,
More. Yeah. You want to turn it.
Oh, yeah. So, like I was saying, if you can get it to grind finer, then it should be. With the idea is that you're getting finer grind, more resistance. You should be able to extract more because you did see the difference between the previous shot that was blonder and even the shot that I showed you from the photo from last week, much blonder than, well, not much blonder, but a bit blonder than the after adjustment, right? Because and like I saw, like you saw the video, in the middle of the grind, we're adjusting it, and so you want to get rid of all that coffee and then pull another shot to see where that grind setting ends up. And we were able to get a little bit more extraction out of it, a little bit more oomph, a little more color. But I think that if you can get it to go further, you should hopefully get better results. And Andrew, I see, is with us. Morning. My Phillips is reporting. I'm giving it all I can, Captain. No milk, no sugar, no lemon, coffee only. Nomi wants to know what's lemon, a lot of plastic on my Bambino +2. I mean, I don't necessarily, unlike if you've seen the Simply Good coffee like ads for the Olsen brewer, the new Olsen brewer that's all metal, I don't necessarily think that the plastic is terrible. Or, I mean, it is a cost-effective measure to build, a more affordable machine. So there's always a compromise, right? If you want to be, hardcore and uncompromising in what you buy in your equipment, then you must spend more, right? And it's always a compromise. There's always a compromise somewhere, right? Like, I would love to have my 3-group La Marzocco Linea here, But the compromise is that I don't have enough space, or I would have to give up all this space for it and reconfigure everything. So we compromise with a small machine. So there's always some compromise, no matter what, no matter how far you want to take it, right? So Andrew says many US restaurants put a lemon rind on the saucer when so the lemon rind, right? The lemon is something that they did a lot in Italy. Traditional espresso would be served with lemon, and that lemon kind of gives a nicer, deeper citrus kind of character to it. And I think it's more like I think it's more the rind. You put the rind. I think you can even rub the rind on your rim, like you rub it on your rim, maybe just drop it in and then drink. I haven't really had that much. I did have a number of customers at Spro that would ask me, once in a while, oh, do you have lemon? I'm sorry, we don't have lemon. Lemon was there were so few people that would be interested in lemon with their espresso that, it was just an unfeasible thing to maintain, because you cut up a lemon or half a lemon, and then one person would come in throughout the whole day that would like a lemon. And so now you wasted this lemon. So you're buying lemons and you just waste them all. That you remember, like, lemons, very pretty. Don't want to waste them, right? But I don't know if that, okay, so the main gist of what we're talking about here is that if you have, and whether it's super automatic, whether it's manual, whatever machine you have, if you're having issues with your coffee being blonde, with it running fast as far as, the ideal time, 20 to 30 seconds, right? The general time that we're looking for a shot of espresso to pull is 20 to 30 seconds, 1.5 to 2, well, somewhere between 1 to 2 ounces, right? Somewhere between 1 to 2 ounces, 20 to 30 seconds, 1 to 2 ounces. You want to be like 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to be like 8.5 to 9 bars. If you can get all those parameters, it shouldn't really matter what machine you have it. As long as that machine can do it, it should be able to produce enjoyable coffee. And I do believe that a lot of machines can do that. Now that's, like I said, I was saying this earlier. I want to believe this. I haven't tested them all. I haven't tested any of them, so I don't know for sure. But whenever I go to my other friend's house that have, like, the Gaggias or something like that, I just want to crank it down. I'm like, crank that sucker all the way down. Make it as fine as you can, man. But, the reality is, if I think about it now, like some of my good friends, they also have these super automatic type machines. Their shots are also on the blonder side than what I would like. But, I do believe that if you can tighten it down, put as much coffee as you can, as tight as you can make the machine, and see how it runs, right? If you can go all the way down to full tightness on your grinder of your machine, pull a shot with that, see what happens. If it stalls, make it coarser, right? If it's still blonde, then, then that's a whole nother issue. Then maybe, depending on the result that you're seeking, there may be other alternatives as far as, like, the coffee that you're selecting, the roast profile that you're selecting, that could, which I'm hesitant to say, but it could impact and deliver a result closer to whatever ideal you might have, right? I guess we'll have to explore that in another time, as far as that roast part of it. But I don't know. Does that make sense? If does that make sense? Am I leaving anything out for this kind of question? I think that covers a lot of what I wanted to cover in this, as far as, like, trying to see, if you have these issues, I'm encouraging you to play with your grind more, right? You can always go finer. Try to go fine. I got one fine. Mary says, I had a nice unctuous one this morning, but messed up on the steaming of the oat milk. Oh, it happens. It happens. We all, you see it. We do it all the time. Like, I muck with the steaming up all the time. Did we talk about this the other day? I don't know if we talked about this, but remember how I had the problem last week or the week before or whatever it was, last week, with the milk steaming and how it wasn't really steaming well? I don't know if you saw my Substack. I wrote about this on the Substack, and I don't know if we talked about this. I don't think we did, but remember how we're using the the day before I was showing you how you can use cold water and dish soap to do a drill on steaming your milk for latte art. Well, I was after that the day after's episode where I was having trouble with the milk. I was like, what is going on here? So I was like reading online, and I had been told by one of my creameries that we used to work with that this kind of issue happened when the homogenation screens would start to get old and they would need to replace them. And so something about the homogenization of the milk, of shearing the fats into the skim milk, would cause this issue of like the bubbles to break and everything to break down. And I was like, okay. So I was trying to read up more on it and see like, what's going on with homogenization. And then I came across this Reddit thread where they were talking about how soap residue in a milk pitcher can also lead to those kind of issues. And I was like, that can't be right. That can't be. I wash my equipment really well. Like I know what I'm doing. Like I've been doing this 25 years. I've been in food service for 27 years. That can't be right. But I was like, I was intrigued. And I wanted to test it. So I went back out here, grabbed a pitcher, filled it up with cold water, put it on the steamer. Man, if that thing didn't bubble up, I was like, oh my gosh, that's just ridiculous. So because we had done that drill where we're using that drop has, of course, a lot more concentration of the soap in that pitcher. I guess I didn't rinse it well enough. So it started to foam, and I was like, oh man. So I dumped it all out, cleaned it really well, rinsed it really well, got some milk, put it in there, steamed it up. Pretty good. Pretty good. So be careful. If you're having milk steaming issues, pay attention to your pitcher. You could have some soap residue. Now, at Spro, when we would have these issues, it would be by the whole batch. Like we would have like severe issues where like even though you're steaming the milk really, really beautifully, like, and I mean like I would steam it and the texture would look perfect. Once you pulled it from the wand, it would look perfect. And then suddenly it would just break. Everything would just be a complete dissipation of the bubbles to flat milk. I was like, what the heck is going on? And so there could be two issues. That still, I think, is well, I was told that was homogenization issue. But another culprit could be not properly rinsed serviceware. So do be careful about that. Oh, all the screeching. Oh my, the screeching. Actually, it's funny. I was at a coffee place the other day. And here's the problem. Here's the problem with working in coffee professionally is that you never truly can enjoy coffee. Never. Never. No matter what setting, you can never truly enjoy coffee. Now, I'm not saying this to for a pity party. It's not a pity party. But this is just kind of, I'm at a coffee shop with a friend of mine the other day, and we're getting a coffee. And the barista is someone that's there that has done baristaing for a long time. And I'm seeing the technique. I can hear the technique of the tamping, and then I can hear the technique of the steaming. And I just know what it's going to be like. I just know what it's going to be like. I was like, oh man. And the espresso was a bit bitter. The milk wasn't sweet. It was like a latte, and the latte was kind of like foamy. It didn't have that beautiful texture. And I was like listening, and you could just hear, because you can hear there's a sound when you know espresso, right? When you know milk, you can hear this sound, right? If you can hear it, and I can't help but to hear it, right? You'll just hear it because it's happening. Like if you're doing it really, really well, it's this, and then eventually goes deep down to right. If it's anything but that, especially if you hear that, you're like, oh God, just butchering the milk. It's all foamy. It's like, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible place to be. Andrew says, does roast type light, medium, dark affect crema? I mean, it will affect crema, but not necessarily. Again, it goes back to how you extract it, right? I can take a dark, like if we had a bitter, like Italian, French, dark roasted coffee, and I can pull that shot and make it as blonde as you want it to be, right? Because again, it's always about resistance. We're trying to get resistance to the water for the extraction. Now, why I mentioned the roasting part of it in the case of like maybe these super automatics that may not be able to get down there is that my thought with that thought is that this deeper roasting may give you some deeper flavors. It may also give you burnt flavors that you might be interested in exploring. And my thought was to use the darker roasted coffee because your machine is incapable of getting it finer, right? It's kind of that compromise again, of like trying to find a way. But to get really great results from that, you've got to find really great dark roasted coffee. And in many respects, great dark roasted coffee is an oxymoron, right? It doesn't normally exist in the world because most people that are doing dark roasted coffees are burning the coffee essentially because people want that, first of all, but also because they know that they can get away with like maybe lesser quality coffee, cheaper coffee, because you're kind of adding a little bit of burn, you're adding a little bit of char, you're making it really deep. So like that char, that smoky, dark aspect of the coffee, of the roasting process starts to occlude flavor issues. And then a lot of the coffee roasters that are doing dark roasted aren't really like that quality oriented, right? And I know people are going to push back on that, but I mean, like, if you're known as a dark roasted coffee, like, and I can think of a couple companies in Maryland alone that are relatively dark roasting coffees, and I don't consider them to be like quality coffee companies. They provide a decent product that people seem to enjoy. They sell quite a bit of coffee, right? They're successful, but is it coffee that's really of quality? That's really, I tend not to think of them in that way, right? Like, would that be coffee that I would want to seek out intentionally? No, no. Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. Naomi says, I gotta go. Have a great one, Naomi. Good to see you. Kent, how are you too? I guess you're gonna go to the gym. Enjoy that. All right. Well, I guess that should be my clue too. So, but I think we've covered everything that I wanted to cover with that. These are some things to consider if you've got any kind of espresso machine and you're not maybe getting the results that you'd like to have. Now, of course, the other side, like I said, is that coffee is always about personal enjoyment. It's pleasurable hedonism. If you enjoy the coffee that you're having and you really like it, then there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that if you feel like you want to get something different, maybe you want to explore more, that's when you want to try. That's when you may consider doing some of these things to try to get something different out of your espresso experience. All right. I guess that's going to be it for me today as well. Hope you have a great one and see you next time.